We're going to start off today with Steve Krull. He spoke a year ago, and he is a good friend and a good partner of CFE Media. He's going to speak at a higher level of where Google is today and where they're going. He's going to talk about redesign of websites, why that is so important, and what you should think about in your strategy moving forward on redesigning your website, and then he'll touch upon content and having the right content on your website. And that will lead on to our next speaker, Joe, who comes to us from Cleveland, Ohio, and flew in this morning. He is the founder and director of Content Marketing Institute. We've leaned on him very heavily over the last several months at CFE Media, and he comes with some publishing background, was a 7-year veteran at running custom publishing and as a publisher at Penton Media, and he'll be our next speaker after Steve. And then we'll have Alicia speak from ABB. She is an engineer by background, and I've asked her to speak about how to run integrated marketing. So how do the actual tactics needed to run a program today, and she will be more practical. Here's what you can take back right now and do. So, and then a follow-up with time permitting. I put together a presentation about how to nurture leads. Marketing automation is a buzzword today, and working with your content CRM system and how to automate the leads and nurture the leads. I'll touch on that and have a good video if time permitted. So I'll be the last speaker today. So I'd like to bring up Steve Krull at this time. If there's any questions for the speakers, there's cards there to write your question down, or you can stand up and give the question after the speaker presents. Presentations today will be 45 minutes, followed by 15 minutes of Q&A. At the end, we can take questions that you might have come up with after hearing all the speakers, and then we'll conclude at 4:30. At 5:30, we'll have cocktails, and there'll be music right outside here for those people staying for the awards dinner this evening, and the awards dinner will be back in this room. So it should be a great afternoon, a good evening, and I welcome all of you to Chicago, and I appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy days to come here and get educated from CFE Media. So Steve Krull, founder of Be Found Online, will be our first speaker. After several years working across a variety of clients and industries together, Steve Krull launched Be Found Online with business partner Dan Golden. As a rule, Steve likes to force a customer-first mindset and believe that Be Found's philosophy of strong customer service coupled with a high online marketing IQ is a great fit for clients. Today, Be Found Online enjoys providing online marketing support for a wide variety of businesses ranging from local and SMBs, small businesses, to Fortune 500 to international companies. When he is not thinking about the online space, he likes to do most anything outdoors, ride his bike, support autism causes, chase his kids, and play ball, and take friends and family to Cubs games. It's going to be a long year, Steve. So, further ado, we're going to bring up Steve, and let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, Jim, and thanks everybody for coming out today. I'm actually going to go pretty heavily on the content side. I've got a lot of site redesign stuff built into the presentation, as one of the major themes for today was sort of content marketing in this space. I know last year social media was a big theme in this space, and it's really all about evolution. Google's evolving, the interweb continues to evolve, and we as marketers, well, we can either sit still and watch our competition fly by, or we can evolve. Google forces the evolution once in a while, and they did this. Hey, one moment please, technical difficulty. My clickety doesn't work. That one, right? So sad.
Well, no, it's true. Maybe their battery
All right.
died. I'm going to go get batteries.
Wait, back up. All right, so what we're going to cover today, we're going to cover a few things. We're going to talk about why content is still king, really why content has always been king. I'll talk a little bit about why first-person content is always fabulous, but why third-person content isn't as bad as people think it is. So I don't want you to steal content and take it from people, but licensing content isn't viewed the same way it used to be. Google's changing some of the rules there, as Alicia and Joe will talk about later as well. It's good to use other people's stuff. Why should you have a really, really strong opinion that's been rewritten 15 times? If 15 people have had good opinions before, why not paraphrase that? Buy some of that, use some of that, move it into what you're doing. We also want to talk about researching your users when you're doing a website redesign, and as I weave content into this, it's about creating logical themes on your website. It's not necessarily about what you think users search for on your website. It's about what they really search for. So it's about using your analytics and some of those things to dive in, but then complementing that with external research to find out what the market really sees and how they use those terms and how they're searching. A few years ago, we talked about how engineers search. There were vertical search engines in a couple of places. There still are a few of those. Google, what has Google done? How have they matured in terms of giving us more advanced search operators and things like that? There's some people that really geek out to search operators, and that's kind of fun. If you ever want to get into that, read some of the books by Stephen Spencer. He is the master of Google Advanced Search Operators. So if you want to figure out how to outsmart Google in terms of getting the results you want, go read some of Stefan's stuff. And then, how do we design with content in mind? How do we integrate the stuff that we're using? We have product specs. Sometimes we license product specs from third parties, right? All this is, it's data, right? It's organized data. We have to integrate it into our content. Worked recently on an auto website. They integrate data from Chrome, which licenses their data to over 900 people. It's all duplicate, all over the place, but Chrome is still the single best source for that information. Would I ever rewrite their stuff? Probably not. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about Google. Pandas, penguins, and penalties. This is what Google's done over the course of the last couple of years to, in their words, make a better internet, to make a better search experience. So a couple of years ago, Google Panda filtered out a lot of low-quality content, and they killed a lot of different link farms and linking techniques and some other stuff. So online marketing, there used to be shortcuts. Google's trying to remove the shortcuts so that honest marketers win the game. You used to be able to buy links. You could, from any number of sources online, you could go out and buy 1,000 links, 10,000 links of varying quality, and you could point those all back to your site based on your target keywords or back to one of your landing pages, and you would get a nice lift in the search engines. And you paid for it, and then ultimately you paid for it again later when Google changed all the ranking algorithms. What happened to those sites that had horrible backlink profiles from bad neighborhoods, so to speak? A lot of those sites were penalized. Then Google, that wasn't good enough for Google. They came back around, and in 2012, the Penguin showed up. And what the Penguin did to us is the Penguin said, thin content is no good. Some of this repurposed content is really no good. We're thinning out the ranks. We want to make sure that everything you do is still above board. It's all along the same lines of cleaning up the search results, making sure that spammers aren't in the top 10 for the high-quality keywords that we all should be in the top 10 for, because that's our business. It's not the business of the spammers to be into backup generators. But you know what? They were there. They were drawing traffic for it. Why do they want traffic for that? Because they can get paid for it too. You guys want to sell $50,000 pieces of equipment. They want to make money. Everybody wants to. Their job is to get a user to their site so they can make money on advertising or on another click. It's still an old game of arbitrage. If I pay 2 cents for a click and I can sell it for 10 cents, I've made some money. That's why the spammers are out there. Affiliate marketers are really, really good at this stuff. Spammers are really, really good at this stuff. Google wants to even the playing field for those of us who are doing things the right way. So what did Google do? They penalized sites. Some of these sites, people who'd contracted with these, I don't know, pick an agency, pick an overseas operation. They bought links, bad quality links. Sometimes they thought they were getting good quality links. Google didn't like sites. They penalized you. They started penalizing you. It used to be that Google would delist your site. They'd hide you, and they'd try and get in touch with your webmaster if you had an account with Google. Now, Google will actually lower your ranking for a money keyword. So in the safety data sheet space, MSDS is the world's most popular keyword, probably by an order of magnitude of 50 to 1 over the distant number 2 keyword. I saw somebody go from page 1, middle of page 1, number 5 ranking, down to 70, and then completely disappeared, and it went away for a good long while. Shortly after that, all of the related keywords to MSDS disappeared. And some of you may have gone through this, I'm not sure, where Google has levied these penalties on these websites. As it turns out, you go peel back the onion to find out what's going on. Google gets some of these things right and some of these things wrong. The site that we looked at in that space, it turned out that a couple of their clients had put up run-of-site links across 80,000 pages each. And as soon as we had those removed, Google decided to honor our re-inclusion request. And their link is back on page 1, and they're happy. But the things Google goes through. So what happens is there are sort of casualties or collateral damage in Google's world. What they do is good for the many always has some people that fall out. So in that case specifically, we didn't have bad links. Sure, there's always going to be crappy links to your website, okay? So let's not think about I have to clean up every link on the planet. What Google made you do is look at the quality of your links. And if you were out buying links or collecting links and paying for them, they found all of those networks and they figured out who was buying from them, and then they shut the networks down and they penalized the people who they knew were buying. And this is kind of how it worked out. There used to be a blogger network that had 9,000 blogs in it, and people were buying it. It was easy and it worked. And Google infiltrated their network, found out all the blogs, and picked up all the links that those sites were pointing to and penalized a good number of those people. Now, Google also gives you a chance to sort of state your case. Last year, middle of the year, they sent out almost 1 million email messages and told people that they were breaking Google's rules. And it was this tricky situation for a lot of people because on one hand, Google called you out. They said you were breaking the rules. As a business, do you reach out to Google and admit it? Do you have the information to support it? So this is what Google sort of did to change the game. This is where, if we think about this, and enough about Google history here, is that how do we stay out of Google's crosshairs, not just historically, but going forward? We don't want the next Google change to have a significant negative impact on our web property or our presence or, in many cases, our money keyword or keywords or our product keywords. If we get caught in those crosshairs, what happens? We lose money. We stop dropping money on the bottom line. There's no money on the top line because you can't make money if Google's not there. Google's going to be around for a long time. They continue to revise and refine their search results. So what we need to do is we need to be able to play their game, and there's an easy way to play the game. If you haven't and you do search marketing for a living, read Google's Webmaster Guidelines. It's Google's big book of webmaster rules. It's written in a lily white sense. And yes, there's a lot of gray area with Google, and you won't ever get a really strong interpretation from them unless you've broken the rules and you need to get on the right side of it. Then you'll understand where the lines are. But if you get some time, flip through the Webmaster Guidelines if you think your website is at risk at all. So where is Google taking all of this? I'm not sure, but I imagine we're going to get another black and white animal at some point in time. And each of those came out in the spring of the previous years. So there have been rumors on the search circuit that talk about when's Google's next big update. It's working? Oh, thank you. When's Google's next big update? What are they going to do, and how are they going to roll it out? So they've been doing annual major updates, but they never tell us. They do thousands of updates a year. Most of the things we won't know, we won't see. But there are occasions where they do major updates. A couple of weeks ago, people were rumbling about, was Google making a change? There was nothing there. So we'll see what Google does next. If they do it again, odds are they're trying to clean up the index again. But what are we left to do? Where do we take all this as marketers? What do we want to do with our websites? So, at the end of the day, content has been and always will be king on the internet. Good quality content is it's going to help your user. It's going to educate them. It's going to inform them. It's going to help the search engine. It's going to help everybody. It's going to help your website. It provides breadth and depth on your web properties to add content to your website. And it's not just having a blog hiding off in a corner, which is great. If you don't have a blog, get one. And if you only can hide it in the corner, please do so. But have a blog, but integrated content. And it's all, we always talk about integrated marketing in this space. It's integrated content too. How much content do you have and where can you use it? So it says here that 82% of B2B marketers employ content marketing strategy. How many people think that number is high? How many people think it's low? How many people actively use content marketing as part of your day-to-day marketing strategies? Close to half. How many people could do more? How many people could do a ton more? How many people don't have the budget to do a ton more? I thought that would be everybody. So content is still king, but what do we want to do with this content? It's everywhere. People write it. Jim's group publishes, how many articles a month do you guys generate across the magazine titles? Hundreds? Yeah, so there's content everywhere. We're all producing content. The question is, what content is right for you, and where does it belong? So it's making content part of your overall strategy. I gotta get off that stage. The idea is, you know where your customers are and who they are, but where are they going to find this information? They can find it on your website. They can find it anywhere else online. So what you want to do is you want to be able to engage these people. You want to show your product, show your brand, give them some awareness. Even if you're layering in content from 2 or 3 other sources, you might keep the user on your website for an extra 2 minutes. That 2 minutes goes a long way toward your brand and your product credibility. I, as a searcher, I go all over the place to try and find 2 or 3 people who share my ideas. And I have to trust a couple of those sources. They have to be people that I've heard about, I know about, I've read about. It's all that networking and referral. Now, what if, in my own content strategy, I can integrate some of that stuff, even if I'm quoting an article that's on the same information that I want, or I'm syndicating that content so that I can have a more robust user experience. All of that stuff can work in this game, but the idea is making it a part of that strategy, integrating it into your plan. So again, if you're rebuilding a website, taking this back to some of what we want to get into, is that if you're rebuilding a website and you think that all I have to do is pick up the site and move it to the new platform and add user bells and whistles, take the next step. Think about your content. Think about your content strategy. Think about an integrated content strategy. Think about how within the new platform or your platform of choice that you can integrate, manipulate, and cross-promote your content. Your products belong on your content pages, and your content belongs on your product pages. And opinions and editorials and blog posts and articles, all of these things have multiple personalities on your website. They shouldn't be siloed off. I shouldn't have articles hiding off to the right and my blog buried in a corner and then dive down into my products. All of these things support one another. It's true that blog posts don't sell as much as product pages do, but if my product isn't on my blog post, it's never going to sell. So we need to make sure we're using that stuff there. So the challenges that B2B marketers face, I think everybody has a list of challenges that we all face. We talked about a few of them. We all have to do more with less. We need to find out where our customers are. We need to find out what our customers want. We need to educate them. And then we need to get them in the loop. And Jim's going to talk later about some of that automation, some about figuring out where your prospect is in the loop and how close they are to actually converting, what actions maybe they've taken. Because we want to know that as marketers too, right? They come to my website, I get stats from my analytics platform that says, great, my pages per visit is now 4.8, and my time on site is now 5 minutes. Well, what was it before, and how are you using that data? All of that comes into play. So we have to figure this stuff out. So along with looking at our analytics and things like that to make decisions, we have to figure out what they're using in our content and how they're playing the game on our website. So some of the key components of content marketing, and some of you do a lot of these things already. Content creation. Am I creating it? Where am I getting it from? What am I doing with it? Content management. What's it doing in the platform? Do I have a content repository in my platform? How well am I using that? Can I do more? If I'm rebuilding my website, what features can I get in my next gen platform that are going to allow me to do more of this? And then really there's a whole outreach piece of this. Every one of us belongs to networks. We all probably have people that write and blog that we don't even know they do. But blogs look for great content. Blogs also look to write content for great sites. So that's one of the other things, is creating this network of like-minded individuals. You don't have to go out and write somebody a post every 2 or 3 days. It's just having somebody that shares your opinions and shares your vision who might be willing to write an article for you. And content, in many ways, can take so many forms. We all think of content as text. Infographics are exploding. They're everywhere. People are making more interactive infographics every day. Videos are great content. We can tie blog posts. If you have a piece of content, you can take that, and as Alicia was saying earlier, I can make that live for a month with different posts and what I can create from that content. The idea is that I can make a few blog posts out of an article that I find or something I'm seeing. I can make a video, a couple of videos, how-tos, top 10s, top 5s. We can really do a lot with that content, and it can go all over the place. And then, on top of that, sharing that content. That's part of the outreach, but making sure that you put it up on your YouTube channel, you host that on your website, fine. Make sure people can share it too. Make sure it's out there. Make sure it's accessible. So, getting back to user intention, what do our users want and what do they want to do? We all have data from our websites. We all have analytics software, and we all have analytics platforms. One of the key failures I see in looking at our analytics data is that that's all we look at. We don't look at what we don't have. We don't go look at the market opportunity sometimes. We don't look at search trends. We don't look at keyword popularity. We don't look at some of the other factors. We look at the data we have from our website, and we make as good of decisions as we can based on that data. And trust me, there's a ton of great data in your analytics platform. But if you're rebuilding or redesigning your website, or you're thinking about a content strategy, figure out not only what your user is doing, that's in analytics, find out what they want. Find out what they want from your website, find out what they want from your products, and then find out what they want from you. At the end of the day, if we can answer that question, we can go there. So pull the Google Analytics data, then go use some of the free tools out there to find out what the competitors are doing. Use a tool like Compete to find out if they've got paid search programs or what keywords they rank for in organic search. Go out and do the homework. Take a look. See who's published industry information on the related product terms or the category terms that you want, that belong as part of your business, or really just stuff that is to your product. It gets beyond sort of the search marketing. Everybody here has heard about keyword research and developing keyword lists, and I need my primary, my secondary, and my long tail keywords. Absolutely important. But when it comes to building your website and focusing on your clients, go do the industry homework. Yes, there are keywords like MSDS that are going to win the day for us, and we should target those keywords. But make sure your strategy for keywords and your content is true to who you are as a business and your website, and that will reflect itself in your content. So you can create seed lists of keywords and pull that research together and give it to people. What's going to happen to that stuff? We often forget it. We get comfortable in our space. We know it. Go dust off a little keyword research. Next time you're starting a new group of articles or content or some new section of the website, go take a look at the competition again and find out what those guys are up to. So I've covered a lot of this in terms of where to get your content, designing it with content in mind. How do you get the most effect from your content? I think, Alicia, you're probably going to cover content calendars a little bit. The idea is that if you don't have a plan, you can't execute anything. If my job is to be a blogger and I don't have a schedule for the content and the titles that I want to publish, I've got a lot of other stuff I need to do. I'm not going to do it typically. I'm going to go find other stuff to do, and the blog is going to suffer, or the article of the month is going to suffer. And oftentimes, as I'm sure we've all been through, if you're relying on other people from the product development teams or the marketing teams to write you an article once a month, very rarely happens if there's no skin in the game for them. We need to somehow be able to pull that information out of them or be able to work around those people. Make it interesting for them to write something for you, if you can. Sometimes you still may not get anything. But put it on a calendar. Make them responsible. Make sure you have management's buy-in for what they want to do. And then really sort of take your content, and then you've got this body of content. Figure out where it goes. Some of your first-person content may not live on your website first. You may choose to use that as a guest blog. You may say, this idea really belongs as a video and really belongs on YouTube, and then you'll tie in stuff on the backside. So often we make the mistake of putting it on our website first. And it's not always a mistake. It just depends on the content type. So understand your content types. And then make sure that you're thinking about in your content calendar, if this content type is a single execution piece of content, which I can almost guarantee it never should be, there are always 2 or 3, sometimes 8 or 10 things you can do with a single piece of content online. just putting a little piece of it in a blogger comment sometimes will get you a comment back on your blog or get you an opportunity to write a blog for somebody. So it's things like that. Think about the things that people are using and doing, be it a white paper. I think ebook is the last on the list up here in terms of what won the popularity contest. And social media is still on the top. Social media, for me in this game, is the vehicle for people to share all of that information. It's pushing it out there. So blogging is effectively social media if people are out there using it and talking about it, and they have an opportunity to share. So build your content for maximum effect. Look at your calendar. Look at what you want to build that into your website, build it into your content, build it into the things that you're writing about, and think about your audience every time you're publishing something. And most of you probably have multiple audiences that you're trying to get to. You've got decision makers, you've got engineers, and you've got people who just need to be educated on products and services. All of those people are usually parts of our audience. We need something, some hook in what we're saying and doing to bring in each of those different people. Some of us like video content. I'm not one of those people. Some of us like to read articles. Some of us like infographics. It all depends on where your audience is and what they're doing. Just writing content isn't going to be enough anymore. Just putting it on your website often isn't enough anymore. It's being part of this content ecosystem as it's evolving, and then making sure that you have enough of that content on your own website to represent your business, your products, your services. Too far away. Oh. I think I covered a lot of integrated content, but really when it comes down to CMS, is make sure I'm in the right place. Yes. Integrating your content in a platform. We do this a lot, but sometimes we don't think about it enough. When we build out product catalogs for e-commerce or even just general shopping and browsing, we often have also consider products. We have related products. But we often fail to think about interesting content that relates to these. So can I tag in my platform what content I want to relate to this article? So do I have 3 key blog posts that are related to this category or this product? Or do I simply have in that widget my most recent blog posts, which is more often the case. So I think about 90% of the time, if you look through sites, we have a widget that has our most recent content, our Twitter posts or our blog posts, sometimes most recent articles. What we need to do is organize products and content together to create those relationships. And for creating those relationships means that we're going to have more volume on that page and more value on that page. And if I think about this from pure search geek talk, if I have a product on my page and I have a product description on my page, I've got a limited set of content. I have to hope they get down to the category, into the product, and make sense of it. If I can relate some content on that page, I get keyword-rich content that's related to the product or category that I'm in. I get more text on the page, and at the end of the day, I'm going to say this until the day they kick me out of this business, that Google is still a text reader at the end of the day. They try to tell you there's something else. All they do is read a page from top left to bottom right, and they try to make sense of all the code in between. So the more relevant content we put on that page, 1, I'm going to say it's good for the search engine, but 2, let's think about our users there. What kind of content do they need? And what kind of unbiased content do they need? You know, okay, so I sell electrical equipment. Everything I write is going to have some bias, right? I'm trying to sell a product. Integrate some third-party content. Roll some of those things in. We talk about third-party content, and I'm sure Joe will cover a lot of this too in terms of content and where and what. But we've all heard about Google's duplicate content penalties, or maybe we haven't. But the idea is that Google liked, because they're changing some things, to know who owned the content and who was first. Because again, the same spammers on the internet who like to make 8 cents on a click, these are the folks who scrape your content, they borrow it, and they build websites, and they try to drive traffic. Those are the people that Google wants to get rid of. But people that write interesting and compelling content, and they're in your space, absolutely you can bring that onto your pages. But if you're making a platform decision, in integration decisions, figure out how you can tie content by categories and tags and things like that. The WordPress explosion, as I call it, everybody has categories and tags in the things that we do. Those are the kind of things that will relate your content, your articles, your blog posts, everything else, back to the products and the categories on your website. Doing that gives you more breadth and depth on those product pages. They don't have to hunt through all of your articles to find the 2 or 3 that are relevant to them. You put them on the page, relevancy is built in. You get a little bit more mind share, and the customer's closer to conversion. I'm going too far away, and then it works. All right. So if you build it, will they come? In content, not true anymore. It used to be that you could build a website, you could link the heck out of it, and people would show up at your front door. And in the old days of Google, I could stuff keywords, and this is going back a long time ago. But you could stuff keywords in your pages, and you could do some things, and you could trick the search engines. But more and more, if we think about our website is where we want to convert. It's the hub of everything that we do. But our users are out there at multiple touch points. They're out there on other blogs, third-party websites. They're out there reading information on everybody else's site. They're doing their research. I do my research that way. I usually look at half a dozen or more websites when I'm looking to make a purchase decision. I trust some third-party content. I don't trust others. It depends who you're reading. But again, they're going to go out there anyway. And if you've got integrated content on your site that is related to your product or your category service, what's going to happen? They're going to go out and do their research anyway. They're going to do less of it because you've given them some of the answers already. You've given them some of the hints to what they need to do to make a purchase decision. So you've now shortened the cycle on sales because you've done more to educate that customer rather than just give them specs and a 200-word product description. You've given them your information, and you've given them third-party information. Now let them go out and build the case for whether they want to buy yours or the guy down the street. Odds are, because you've got a richer experience, they're going to come back for you because you're there and you've created a relationship. So that's what's going to happen. So all of those things too, especially when we think about touch points, if your articles live in multiple places, and I get back to being a search geek, if all of my stuff lives beyond my website as well as on my website, I get higher rankings in the search engines. I get more organic traffic from the search engines. More traffic, more customers is the logic. We won't talk about conversion optimization in this session, but that's another piece of it. Rising tides lift all ships. If I can increase my site traffic by 25% by engaging in a strong content marketing program and using content on my site and using content out off of my site, or if other people are writing about me, if I can gain 25%, I should see some translation in my sales on my website as well. Stands to reason. And then if you throw conversion optimization on top of that, sometimes a half a point increase in conversion rates can yield tremendous, tremendous results. So if you're not studying conversion rate, I urge you to do so, but we won't talk about that anymore. All right. Well, so when we're considering content marketing, and we're talking about, we'll go into a little more in the website, but it is a popularity contest. I want content from the most credible source. I want to make my decision based on the person I trust the most. And I hate to say it, that's a popularity contest. How many people are voting for your content versus somebody else's? And how does that weigh into my purchase decision? Now granted, I'm not always going to pick the guy who has the most votes, so to speak, or the most comments on his blog, or the guy who writes the most about these products or services. Sometimes I look at blogs and they go so heavy on some products or categories that I think they've been bought. And I have some vendors that I looked at that way too in the space. They write so much about this, you have to wonder whose payroll they're really on. But at the same time, if they're providing useful, unbiased information and there's not the heavy-handed sales pitch, there's still good information out there. So it is a popularity contest. The more you're doing to engage that community of like-minded individuals, the more people are going to bring some of that back to you. They'll write about your products. You might write about them. It might just be a bit of a social plug. If you're going to a conference and you want to write about the conference, your friends might pick that up too. All of this stuff in terms of content gives you visibility. So while every blog post isn't going to tie back to a product or a service, every blog post can add value to your website and your user experience because you may just be talking about industry trends that isn't product related, but still shows you as a thought leader. And that's also key in all of this, is that showing your leadership, your ability to write and promote. So your competition now is focusing on content. A lot of people out here, you might think it's a new buzzword, but it's been around forever. We've always talked about good content trumps everything online. If you've got quality content to match your quality products, you're going to drive traffic and you're going to increase sales and conversion. So think about your strategy for 2013. It's still early enough to look at 2013. And if your technical folks who are building your website and your content folks who are writing all of your content haven't gotten together with the marketing folks who need to make the money, then get those people in a room and have that conversation. Because these things should all, in some way, shape, or form, tie together into your integrated plan for this year. Even if you start, we always talk about crawl, walk, run. Even if you just get in a room and talk about a little bit of it, one day you're going to be talking about a lot of it because it needs to happen. And if you can't create all the content internally yourself, figure out how you can augment, where you can get people to write for you, where you can get quality third-party content that complements what you're doing. So, and then if you are in the midst of a website redesign, make sure that strategy is part of the redesign. Figure out how to create the hooks in the platform. There's an e-commerce platform or just a homegrown large CMS. Figure out how to paint that picture, how to bring all those things together so that you create that user experience that keeps them on a page or keeps them into those articles. The last thing you want them to do is go back to Google or go to your competition before they've formed a strong opinion of you. Now, a couple of gratuitous site launch guidelines. As some of this was originally site redesign, this is a little bit geeky, but when we redesign websites, we have a tendency to just build a website and launch it. From a search marketing perspective, just firing up a new website and shutting down the old website is often Google suicide. We've had more than one situation where clients have launched a new website without any search marketing guidance or SEO guidance, and they've lost everything but their brand traffic as a result of a transition. And even their brand traffic is lower because if there's one thing Google doesn't like, it's finding out nobody's home. So rule number one, if you're doing a site relaunch, redirect your old site to your new site effectively. Go find where 80% of your organic search traffic comes from. Figure out what pages that 80% of traffic is landing on. And find a home for that stuff on the new website directly. Make sure it's a one-to-one translation using a 301 redirect. Make sure you give Google the forwarding address. If there's one thing Google responds to, and they kill content and kill pages fast, is an error page. If Google sees a 404 page, they give you 2 or 3 days before they kill it. It's not fun to try and get that stuff back. It takes forever. So if you're transitioning your site, rule number one, make sure your redirects are in place. Robots.txt is your friend. Simple little text file, and it sits in the root file of your server. You can, if you're building a test site or dev site, use your robots file to disallow everything for search engines. More often than not, if it's password protected on the dev site, you're in great shape. What you want to do when you're building the site and letting people test it, user acceptance testing or QA testing, you want to keep the search engines out. Too often, we have to open up the site to outsiders. If we open up the site to outsiders and it's not password protected, guess who gets in? Google. Guess what happens when Google gets in? They crawl that site. Then they index it. Now, you've got 2 pages about the same piece, and one of them's new and one of them's old, and we have little control over what Google sees there. I've had clients who've had 16,000 pages of their development site indexed in Google, and it was getting traffic. It was getting a fair amount of traffic. And we had to turn it off because they weren't ready for launch. So use the robots to create some exclusions, and if they're just certain page types you want to exclude from the search engines, there's also a meta tag that you can use to tell Google to go away, or tell all search engines to go away, for that matter. Keep your content close. This is a rule that I learned the hard way several years ago. We had a large content website, and when we did a redesign, in our infinite wisdom, we decided that it was going to be a good thing to thin out the content at the bottom where the user was getting, and then we moved the rest of the content one step further away from the top of the site, effectively one step further away from Google. If you're re-architecting and redesigning your website, make sure your product and product content doesn't get any further away from the top. If it goes further away from the top, Google is immediately going to think it's less important. And when they think it's less important, or if you thinned it out so much like we did, not only did we thin it out, we moved a bunch of it lower. We lost 35% of our traffic after launch, and only after we went back and re-architected some of that did we get the traffic back following the launch. So that stuff is key, and it's really, really important. Manage your metadata. We got a call last week for somebody who was about to relaunch their website. They were going to launch last Friday, in fact. And we took a quick look at the site, and I told our partner on the project, I said, Mark, we have to get up in front of the moving train. He said, what? He said, they're a brand new client. We can't do that. I said, we can't have them launch like this. They were going to hurt their website significantly because all of their page titles were duplicated across the entire site. Every one of them said the name of the business over across 900 pages on their newly architected website. And if we talk about meta page title or the page title in Google, it's still the most important thing that Google sees when you launch. So if these are the ABCs of getting a site launch right, make sure that if you're redirecting from old to new, that the new page has as much or more good information as the old one. So don't thin it out. I learned that lesson the hard way. If you thin the content on the destination page and Google had you ranked for a handful of keywords and sent you a bunch of traffic, and you send them to a skinny little page, it's going to disappear. Traffic will disappear. Conversions will disappear as well. So random thinkages, also from experience, don't outsmart Google. I've had clients who decided they were going to do these really cool architectures and taxonomies, and they were going to cross-categorize a lot of their content. It confused the crawler, confused Google. Google couldn't get a good read on what was in income tax information and what was in personal finance because everything was cross-categorized. I blame that piece partially on the fact that Google loves the WordPress taxonomy. So if you do have a blog, if it's on WordPress, Google loves it as long as you're tagging and categorizing things well. And they tend to read other content-driven websites in a lot the same way they read WordPress sites. So we found out that we weren't smarter than Google. Though we tried to be really, really adaptive to the user experience and give the users a better experience, Google crushed us for it. Crawl the site yourself. A few free tools up here that you can use to crawl your site before launch. Figure out what it's looking like. Most of these guys will let you use a Google bot as a crawler too. So it'll honor your robots.txt and allow you to crawl your website. You'll find out what's working and what's not. It'll give you a lot of the information about page titles and 404 pages and redirects and those things. There's a lot of good testing to be had there. Indexation is one of the things to take a look at too. I think I'm not going to try this thing. That's actually a link, but I'm scared of this controller. Do a site colon with your website following it in Google. I will try and get to it. Find out how many pages you have indexed. Find out how many pages you should have indexed. You'll find sometimes that Google has 3, 4, 5, 6 times the number of pages indexed that they should. A lot of this is because of how they understand a site. And if you're redesigning your site and you're moving it over, use Google's Webmaster Tools. They have a handy little dashboard in there that tells you how many pages are active in the index, how many pages Google sees, and how many pages they ignore. If the number of pages Google sees far outweighs the number of pages that they have indexed, you typically have an indexation problem. Often, you're not going to solve that simply by rebuilding and relaunching your website. Take a look at what's causing the indexation issues. Find out if it's funky parameterized URLs that come in multiple versions, and figure out if you can fix that in the next generation. Because what happens when you have indexation issues is Google continues to spiral on them. And in some cases, I've seen sites that have Google ignoring 30 million pages on the website, and there should be 60,000 pages, which means that the spider's out of control. Google never finishes. Another quick thing to look at in the Webmaster Tools, if you go in there, is take a look at the site crawl rate And if the message says that Google has you on a special crawl rate, it's not special at all. It means that they're ignoring most of your content and that their bot can't finish crawling your site. So if you're getting a message like that in Webmaster Tools, it's time to take a look at the architecture of the site. Check your site search behavior immediately after launch. If you find keywords in that site search that weren't there before for what people are looking for on your site, it means you hid something. If you've hidden your most popular products or your most popular content, you're going to pay on the bottom line. Make sure that content's accessible. If you find that stuff, if they're searching for your most popular products or services in that site search box after you've launched, fix it fast. Google will find it as well, but you want users to be able to find that information. And just a little anecdote, analytics is not just a friend, it's your best friend. Before, during, and after your site, whether you're using Web Trends or Omniture or not Sitecore, that's a platform, or Google Analytics, look at this stuff before, during, and after your transition because it will give you great information. It'll let you know where the problems are. It'll let you know where the money is or where the food is, as I like to say, and it'll help you solve problems. So do that if you're not doing it already. And tie it into some of your other stuff. If you've got opportunities to bring analytics data into your CRM platform or into your Salesforce platform, do some of those things too because all of those things are going to help you shorten the sales cycle as well. The more information we have about our more educated customer, the shorter the loop we're going to have as well. One more gratuitous slide. It doesn't like me. This is a gratuitous upper management slide. As I talked to some folks, we talked about the idea of selling in a website redesign is not always the most popular decision. And what are some ideas for making sure that senior management has an idea of what we're trying to build and why? I always look at our website as an investment. Senior management that I've worked with in the past has viewed it as an expense. Well, you're going to spend $300,000 or $3 million to rebuild this website. What's in it for me? Marketing opportunities, sales opportunities. Let's go take a look at the ROI of our website today and figure out what we can do with it tomorrow and paint that picture. Yes, working with this vendor or working with IT is going to cost us X. But if we look at all of the things that we can add and the net impact to what we're doing online, we can recoup that money in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever that is down the road. But think about the growth opportunities from rebuilding that website. And that, to me, is an investment, especially if you're thinking about your other marketing channels, your email marketing, your display marketing. All of those things are going to lead back to your website in one form or another. So if you can improve that user experience for all of those other channels that come back, those are going to lift too. So there's other money to be had, other streams of revenue to be had by redesigning your website. So aim for efficiency. New platforms need to be more than a pretty face or pretty site. Look for things around your user base that make their lives miserable. What's hard to manage on the current platform? When you're talking to platform vendors, don't fall for the marketing stuff. As I say here, make the Kool-Aid, don't drink it. They're marketing, just like we are. They're trying to sell you something. Look under the hood. And when you're thinking about selling it to senior management or building a business case for it, make sure that you've talked to users. Make sure you've gone beyond a demo of using the software. Make sure you've talked to installed users. Look at forums. Look at what people's chief complaints are. See if they've fixed it in the most recent version of the website. Find out those things. See if you can find some warts. And I like to say objectivity pays the rent. Pet platforms are great, and I've got a ton of web developers that I really respect a lot. But make sure you're using the platform and the team that's best for your project versus just best for senior management or best for you. And I hate to say that there's often no cure for El Jefe's pet platform. I've had platforms come down the pipe many, many times that did not fit the intention of what the site should be. You know what? Make the best of those situations. We can't always make those decisions, but objectivity wins. If you can balance the equation between people and technology to build a business case for that new platform or even just an enhancement to your existing platform, doing that with data often wins. And then it's the metrics, conversion rates, bounce rates. What do you see as possible improvements? Don't paint yourself in a corner by predicting that you're going to get 200 number one rankings and your organic traffic is going to go through the roof and your website conversion rate is going to jump to 10%. Because if you're held to those numbers, you'll be unemployed in a while. Guessing is not part of this. It's looking at what your conversion rates are and what your bounce rates are and those things and modeling what the opportunity is. If we do get this right, and there are a lot of variables that go into getting it right, if we do get it right, we can get this much of that traffic. We can increase our conversion rate. If we increase our conversion rate by 15%, what does that mean to the bottom line? If we increase it 15% in a certain channel online, what does that mean to the bottom line? So how does all that stuff play into the decision making? And of course, ROI, I try to say save yourself from an ROI calculation, but you need to do it up front typically to justify the cost. I don't know many people, and I'd love to see if anybody really does go back and chase an ROI equation a year later or 2 years later or even 18 months to see, did we really make money on that project? Or has everybody gotten too busy worrying about keeping the site alive and getting new stuff up there that we don't necessarily look at the metrics? Sure, we look at the growth, the revenue, traffic growth, and things like that. We never go back and remeasure that ROI. So hopefully we don't have to talk about 2 years later, 2 years down the road, go do your ROI assessment again. Because if you've done your homework up front, you shouldn't need to. And then again, I repeat, analytics is still your friend here, especially as you're looking to executive management. But don't get caught up in all of the data. You're still in a sales and marketing role here. So you have to ultimately say, what is the platform good for? And you have to pull out some of that tangible evidence of what we could achieve. And say, oh, the data says we have all of these things, but we need to paint the picture of that. We need to make the business case for rolling up with a new platform and figure out what makes the most sense for the business in terms of that. Is it leads? Is it sales? Is it eyeballs? What are the key metrics that you want? What do you want to achieve with the website? That's all I have. I'm happy to take questions. BFO we are a multi-service digital agency. We've been around. My little story is, we like to tailor our projects to your business goals, more so than looking at a cookie cutter digital search project or anything like that. We like to understand businesses. We like to understand the business you're in. We've seen success across multiple platforms, and we solve all sorts of problems. We're, in many ways, data and architecture geeks. We've built a lot of websites in our time. We've managed online paid marketing programs as well. The goal is, at the end of the day, to help you drive new revenue or new revenue streams, and we like to think we're pretty good at that. So we do more than SEO, as you probably figured out from my talk. We do quite a few different things, and we like to think we do them pretty well, as our customers and our portfolio will attest. So if you need anything, if you have any questions at all, feel free to give me a shout. Thanks.